The movie kicks off in a late-night small store in Los Angeles. Nick, a small-time drug dealer, is having a hard time picking a coffee flavor. His ex-girlfriend Dallas and their hitman friend Billy Hill are growing annoyed with his hesitance and push him to hurry up. Nick finally decides on chocolate macadamia, but the machine is empty. He complains to the cashier, who suggests another flavor. Reluctantly, Nick chooses hazelnut and goes to pay. At the register, he demands a free cake, but the clerk tells him it's only free with a 20-ounce coffee. This angers Dallas, who then shoots the clerk. Soon after, they notice a police car approaching the store. To avoid getting caught, Nick pretends to be the clerk, while Dallas and Billy act like regular customers. A police officer comes in for coffee, and at first, they hide the body. However, the officer spots blood on the floor, forcing them to kill him too. The scene then shifts to Texas, where we meet Casey, a former drug associate of Nick's. They split ways years ago, and Casey has since turned his life around. Now he's happily married to Christine, and they are looking forward to adopting a child. One Thursday morning, Casey gets a call from Nick, who asks if he can stay with him for a few days. Even though he is unsure, Casey agrees when Nick says he's getting married. While preparing breakfast, Casey tells Christine about Nick's visit. She is confused since she has never heard of Nick but leaves for work before they can discuss it further. She also mentions she'll be home late because of a dinner with her boss and reminds Casey about his appointment with Dr. Jarvis from the adoption agency. At exactly 8 p.m., Nick arrives at Casey's house, and the two old friends are excited to see each other after such a long time. Nick asks about Casey's life and finds out that Casey is now an architect. Surprised, Nick remarks that Casey seems to be living a much quieter life than before. Soon after, Nick says he needs to run some errands and asks to borrow Casey's car because his own has a flat tire. Casey quickly gives him the keys, and Nick leaves. While trying to get back to work, Casey feels distracted. Walking by the guest room, he notices one of Nick's bags that looks familiar from their drug dealing days. After considering for a moment, Casey decides to check the bag and, to his shock, finds it full of heroin. Angry, he calls Nick and demands that he come and take the drugs out of his house. Nick states he can't leave immediately because he has matters to resolve. Casey threatens to call the authorities and hand over the drugs, but Nick's reaction isn't as expected. Furious, Casey throws the into his kitchen trash. Close to midnight, Casey hears the doorbell. When he opens it, he's attacked by a pizza delivery boy who holds him at gunpoint. This delivery boy turns out to be a Jamaican Rasta hitman named Ice, who asks about the drugs. Casey confesses he has already disposed of them. Ice contacts his superior, who orders him to kill Casey. Before Ice can execute the order, Casey offers to share some. Unable to resist, Ice agrees. As they smoke, Ice opens up about his aspirations to become a rapper and his involvement in crime for financial gain. For an hour, they continue smoking heavily. Abruptly, Ice gets up and says it's time to kill Casey. Just then, he gets a phone call from a friend asking him to rap. Although hesitant, Ice begins to rap. Taking advantage of the situation, Casey overpowers Ice, ties him up with duct tape, and locks him in the garage. Not long after, the doorbell rings again. When Casey answers, he finds Dr. Jarvis, who has come to conduct an interview for an adoption evaluation. Nervous and slightly high, Casey quickly hides any drug evidence and sprays some air freshener before letting the doctor in. Dr. Jarvis is here to assess if Casey would be a suitable adoptive parent. Casey tries to remain calm while answering the initial questions, but Dr. Jarvis is eager to know about his past life in Los Angeles. Casey tries hard to conceal his past and his recent conflict with Ice. In the middle of the interview, Dallas shows up, looking for money she thinks Nick left with the heroin. Casey tells her that Nick isn't there and asks her to leave, but she walks in anyway. Mistaking her for a friend, Dr. Jarvis invites her to join the discussion. Dallas agrees and shocks everyone by revealing Casey's past as a notorious drug dealer known for his ruthlessness and willingness to kill. This revelation deeply unsettles Dr. Jarvis, who quickly decides to leave, clearly not intending to approve Casey's adoption application. Despite Casey's attempts to stop him, Dr. Jarvis leaves without hearing any more. As soon as Dr. Jarvis left, Dallas pulled a gun on Casey, bound him to a chair, and demanded to know what happened to the cash Nick had brought. Casey swore he didn't know anything about the money, saying he'd quit his criminal past years ago. That's when Casey revealed why he'd left his old life. A flashback showed a drug deal with Nick that went horribly wrong. In the chaos, Casey accidentally killed a heavily woman, an event that haunted him and made him want to escape that world. Dallas didn't care about Casey's story and waited for Nick to come back. Then, shockingly, Dallas tried to force herself on Casey, ignoring his protests about being married. Before anything worse happened, Billy burst in and shot Dallas, covering Casey in blood. Billy, also looking for the money, told Casey that Nick had stolen $2 million from the cops and thought Casey knew where it was. Billy planned to torture Casey with a saw and blowtorch to find out. Just as Billy was bragging about his cruel plans, they heard police sirens. Billy quickly hid his torture tools and went to check it out. Taking advantage of the moment, Casey broke free, grabbed a frying pan as a weapon, and pretended to still be tied up. Billy comes back, feeling relieved that the police were at a nearby house. He continues with his plans but spots the duct tape on the floor. Before he can process this, Casey hits him repeatedly with a frying pan, knocking him out. Casey then aims a gun at the unconscious Billy but decides not to shoot, reflecting on his changed nature. Instead, he ties Billy up in the garage, hanging him upside down next to ice. Shortly after, Nick calls Casey from a public phone. He apologizes for the trouble he's caused and admits to stealing and money from the police. Detecting a sense of despair in Nick's voice, Casey asks about his situation, but Nick only mentions his plan to leave the country and says goodbye. Once they end the call, it's revealed that Nick is severely injured and bleeding from a gunshot wound. Casey then cleans himself and his house, which is in complete chaos and covered in blood. At around 5 p.m., a corrupt police officer named Kasarov arrives with a bag. This officer is the one from whom Nick stole the money. To Casey's horror, the bag contains Nick's decapitated. Just like the others before him, Kasarov demands to know where the money is, but Casey has no idea. Kasarov appeared to trust the man, but he suspected Casey knew where Nick had stashed the cash. He gave Casey a tight deadline: find the money by 7 p.m. or face the consequences of his Thursday troubles. Kasarov knew about the dead bodies and prisoners in Casey's garage, using this as a threat. Before leaving, Kasarov brutally killed the captives and ordered Casey to get rid of the bodies, conveniently pointing out it was garbage day. Casey followed these horrific instructions, dismembering the corpses for disposal. Noticing Nick's car outside, Casey remembered something about a flat tire. Searching the car, he found the hidden money and a small gift from Nick, matching watches for him and his wife, Christine. Using Ice's phone, Casey tricked Ice's boss into believing the heroin would be sold at his house at 7 p.m., setting a trap to lure both the Jamaican gang and Kasarov's crooked cops into a violent showdown. Meanwhile, Casey raced to the airport in Dallas's fancy car to find Christine. As planned, chaos erupted at his house at 7 p.m. while he surprised Christine. He proposed escaping to France and urged her to come with him. Torn between her career and her love for Casey, she hesitated. But just as he was about to leave without her, she changed her mind, agreeing to go and asking for explanations later. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you want to watch more videos like this. Thanks and see you again soon. Take care.